Amanda Johnson stepped into the sleek, glass-walled headquarters of Swift Tech Solutions with her head held high. Her heels echoed confidently on the polished floors, mirroring the determination that had carried her through years of hard work and relentless ambition. This was her moment, a well-earned role as senior project manager at one of the most innovative tech companies in the country. "Good morning, Amanda," chirped Lisa, the receptionist, offering a bright smile. "Morning," Amanda replied warmly, already feeling the buzz of the high-energy environment. Her calendar was packed, her goals were clear, and she was ready to deliver. The first meeting of the day was a team introduction led by Mark Taylor, her direct supervisor. As Amanda entered the glass-walled conference room, she noticed the diverse group of engineers, analysts, and designers waiting for her. Mark, a tall man with a sharp suit and an air of practiced authority, stood at the head of the table. His eyes narrowed as she approached. "You must be Amanda," he said flatly, extending a hand but barely meeting her gaze. "Yes, it's great to finally meet you," Amanda replied, her smile unwavering despite the cool reception. Mark didn't respond. Instead, he turned to the team. "Let's get started. We have a lot to cover." Amanda sat at the far end of the table, opposite Mark. As he began outlining the team's responsibilities, Amanda quickly noticed a pattern. Whenever she spoke, he interrupted. "I was thinking that we could optimize the—" "Actually," Mark cut in, not even looking at her, "we're already working on a similar approach." Moving on. A few team members exchanged glances but said nothing. Amanda felt her cheeks flush but forced herself to remain composed. The meeting dragged on, and with every suggestion Amanda made, Mark found a way to dismiss or diminish her contributions. "I've worked on a similar project before," Amanda said at one point. "Perhaps we can." "Experience doesn't always mean expertise," Mark interrupted, a smug smile creeping across his face. "Let's keep ideas relevant to Swift Tech standards." The word stung, but Amanda clenched her teeth and took notes, refusing to let his condescension derail her. When the meeting finally ended, Amanda approached Mark as the others filtered out. "Mark, I wanted to check if there are any specific expectations for—" "Look," he interrupted, folding his arms. "I'm not sure how things worked at your previous job, but here we value results. So less talk, more action. Prove yourself, and we'll see." Amanda swallowed hard. "Understood." Mark smirked, his tone turning patronizing. "Good. Don't disappoint me." Over the next few weeks, the challenges mounted. Amanda worked late hours to familiarize herself with the complex systems, often staying long after the office emptied. But no matter how much progress she made, Mark seemed determined to find fault. "Your report missed key details," he said one morning, dropping a printed document on her desk. Amanda glanced through the report, confused. "Which details?" "I double-checked everything." "The formatting's off," Mark replied, his tone dripping with mockery. "Here at Swift Tech, we aim for perfection. But maybe that's not something you're used to." Amanda stared at him, feeling the humiliation settle in her chest. "I'll fix it right away." Mark leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "You're new here. Don't make the mistake of thinking you're indispensable." The turning point came during a department-wide presentation. Amanda had been asked to present an innovative project roadmap she had developed, one that her team had praised as forward-thinking and efficient. As Amanda spoke, Mark's expression remained neutral, but his interruptions were relentless. "And this timeline accounts for. Do you think these deadlines are realistic?" Mark interjected. Amanda paused, her confidence wavering. "Based on our initial projections, I believe they are, though we can always—" "It's too optimistic," Mark said dismissively, turning to the room. "What do the rest of you think? Anyone else concerned about these assumptions?" Silence. A few colleagues looked down, unwilling to contradict their boss. Amanda's stomach twisted. After the meeting, Amanda overheard Mark talking to another manager near the break room. "She's ambitious, I'll give her that," he said loudly enough for her to hear, "but ambition doesn't always translate to competence." The words cut deeper than she expected. Amanda slipped into an empty conference room, closed the door, and took a moment to compose herself. That night, Amanda worked until midnight to finalize a project plan Mark had claimed was unrealistic. She meticulously reviewed every detail, determined to prove her worth. The next morning, she handed Mark the updated proposal. He skimmed it, then tossed it onto his desk with a dismissive shrug. "It's fine, I guess," he said. "But you're still not quite hitting the mark. Try harder next time." Amanda's hands clenched at her sides. "Could you be more specific about what needs improvement?" Mark smirked. "If I have to spell it out for you, maybe this isn't the right role for you." For the first time, Amanda felt her voice falter. "I understand. I'll do better." Mark leaned back in his chair, his smile widening. "Good. That's the attitude I want to see." As Amanda walked away, her resolve hardened. She wasn't just going to do better, she was going to outshine him. Amanda entered the office the next day, her head held high despite the weight pressing on her shoulders. If Mark thought his belittling comments would break her spirit, he was mistaken. Still, the strain was beginning to show. Her usually warm smile was now guarded, and her once confident stride carried an undercurrent of tension. The morning began with another team meeting. This time, Amanda was tasked with presenting a progress update on the project Mark had labeled as doomed to fail. She had spent countless hours perfecting every slide, double-checking every data point. "Let's hear from Amanda," Mark said, his tone as sharp as the glare of the conference room lights. "She's been working tirelessly, or so I've been told." Amanda took a deep breath and stood. As she walked to the front of the room, she felt Mark's eyes boring into her back. She began her presentation, her voice steady despite the subtle smirks she caught from Mark every time she glanced in his direction. "And this solution not only addresses the bottleneck but also improves efficiency by 30%, Amanda concluded, clicking to the final slide. Mark leaned forward, a look of mock curiosity on his face. "Interesting. But did you consider how this might affect our budget projections?" Amanda nodded. "Yes, I ran a cost analysis. The adjustments stay within our allocated budget." Mark said, his lips curling into a thin smile. "I see. And what about scalability? Does your analysis account for potential future expansion?" "Yes," Amanda replied, her confidence growing. "The model is flexible enough to accommodate." "But flexibility isn't the same as scalability, is it?" Mark interrupted, his tone dripping with condescension. "Let's not confuse the two." The room fell silent. Amanda felt her face flush as her colleagues shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Of course," Amanda said, her voice firm despite the knot in her throat. "I can prepare a more detailed breakdown if you'd like." Mark leaned back in his chair, smirking. "That won't be necessary for now." Later that day, Amanda found herself alone in the break room, staring at the coffee machine as it whirred to life. She was so lost in thought that she didn't hear her colleague Mia enter. "You okay?" Mia asked, her voice gentle. Amanda blinked, forcing a smile. "I'm fine. Just a busy day." Mia hesitated before stepping closer. "Look, I don't mean to overstep, but the way Mark treated you in that meeting, it wasn't right." Amanda's smile faltered. "It's just his style, I guess. Tough love." Mia frowned. "Tough love doesn't include humiliation." "You're doing great work, Amanda. Don't let him make you think otherwise." "Thanks, Mia," Amanda said softly. Her words were grateful, but deep down, she wondered how much longer she could endure this. The next week brought a new challenge, or as Amanda suspected, another trap. Mark assigned her a high-stakes project with an impossible deadline. "This needs to be ready for the board meeting on Friday," he announced, dropping a thick stack of documents onto her desk. Amanda flipped through the pages, her brow furrowing. "Friday? That's less than 3 days away." "I'm aware," Mark said, his tone brisk. "If it's too much for you, let me know now. I can always assign it to someone else, someone more experienced." Amanda's jaw tightened. "I'll handle it." "Good," Mark said, his smile laced with challenge. "I'll expect a full draft by Thursday morning." Over the next 48 hours, Amanda barely left her desk. She skipped lunches, worked late into the night, and even brought her laptop home to squeeze in extra hours. Despite the pressure, she managed to create a comprehensive plan that addressed every aspect of the project. By Thursday morning, Amanda handed the finished draft to Mark. He flipped through it briefly, his expression unreadable. I'll look it over and give you my feedback." Amanda nodded, relief washing over her. But her relief was short-lived. That afternoon, Mark called a spontaneous meeting with the project team. "I wanted to go over Amanda's proposal," he began, holding up the draft. "It's an interesting start, Amanda's heart sank. While there are some good ideas here, Mark continued, there are also some glaring issues. For example, the timeline is overly optimistic. And the cost projections? Let's just say they're not as precise as I'd hoped. He turned to Amanda, his smile as sharp as a blade. Care to explain? Amanda felt the eyes of the team on her, their sympathy palpable. She took a deep breath. The timeline is tight, but achievable if we prioritize resources. As for the cost projections, I cross-referenced them with. Mark raised a hand, cutting her off. Amanda, I appreciate your effort, but this level of work isn't what I'd expect from someone in your position. The words stung like a slap. Amanda clenched her hands under the table, her nails digging into her palms. Moving forward, Mark continued, addressing the team, I'll personally oversee this project to ensure it meets our standards. After the meeting, Amanda sat at her desk, staring blankly at her computer screen. She felt drained, humiliated and defeated. That evening, as Amanda prepared to leave, Mia stopped by her desk. I'm sorry about what happened in there, Mia said, her voice tinged with anger. Mark had no right to undermine you like that. It's fine, Amanda said, though her voice wavered. No, it's not, Mia insisted. She glanced around before lowering her voice. You're not the first person he's treated this way, but you don't have to take it. If you ever need support, I've got your back. Amanda managed a small smile. Thanks, Mia. That means a lot. As Mia walked away, Amanda felt a spark of determination reignite within her. Mark might have humiliated her today, but she wasn't going to let him win. Friday morning arrived with an uncharacteristic hush across the office floor. Amanda sat at her desk, finishing her final revisions on the project proposal Mark had sabotaged. She knew that no matter how thorough her work was, Mark would find a way to discredit her in the afternoon's presentation to the board. Her inbox pinged. It was an email from Mia. He's in the conference room rehearsing with his usual smug attitude. You've got this, Amanda. Don't let him take credit for your work. Amanda's stomach churned, but she replied with a quick thanks and returned her focus to the task at hand. If this was going to be a fight, she wasn't showing up unprepared. By 2 p.m., the conference room was filled with key executives, including the CEO, Jacob Warren. Amanda had never met him in person, but his reputation for demanding excellence preceded him. Mark sat confidently at the head of the table, his posture relaxed as he flipped through the stack of papers in front of him. Amanda entered with her laptop and a folder of supporting documents. Her heart raced, but she held her head high. Thank you for coming, everyone, Mark began smoothly. I'll be presenting the roadmap for our upcoming product launch. A special thanks to Amanda for her contributions to the preliminary draft. Amanda's grip on her folder tightened. Preliminary draft? He was already setting the stage to downplay her role. Mark's presentation began, and to Amanda's dismay, he was using her work. Slide after slide mirrored the document she'd spent nights perfecting. But Mark twisted the narrative to make it seem like he had refined her ideas. When he finished, the room was quiet for a moment before Jacob spoke. Interesting approach, Mark. But I have a few questions about the cost projections and timeline assumptions. Mark's smile faltered slightly. Of course. Amanda can provide the details on those points. All eyes turned to her. Amanda stood, forcing a calm expression despite the whirlwind of emotions within her. Thank you, Mr. Warren. I'd be happy to elaborate. She launched into a precise explanation, walking the executives through her analysis with confidence. As she spoke, she noticed a few nods of approval, but Mark's expression darkened. When she finished, Jacob leaned back in his chair. Good. That's much clearer. He turned to Mark. I have to ask, though, why weren't these details included in your initial presentation? Mark opened his mouth, but before he could speak, Amanda's voice cut through. Actually, Mr. Warren, if I may, there's something important I need to address. Jacob gestured for her to continue. This project represents weeks of hard work and collaboration, Amanda began, her voice steady. But it's become increasingly difficult to contribute effectively due to discrepancies in leadership. A murmur rippled through the room. Mark sat up straighter, his eyes narrowing. Amanda, this isn't the place. With all due respect, it is, Amanda interrupted, her tone unyielding. She opened her folder and began distributing printed emails and timeline drafts. These are some examples of the challenges I've faced. Missing information, conflicting instructions, and at times overt obstruction. Jacob examined the documents, his brow furrowing. Is this accurate, Mark? Mark's face turned a shade of red. This is a gross exaggeration. Amanda clearly misinterpreted. She didn't misinterpret anything. A voice cut in from the corner of the room. Everyone turned to see Mia standing by the door. She looked nervous but resolute. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I need to say something. Jacob raised a hand, signaling for her to proceed. I've been on Amanda's team since she joined, Mia said, her voice gaining strength with each word. And I've seen how Mark has treated her. He's withheld information, dismissed her ideas, and set her up to fail more times than I can count. I didn't speak up earlier because, well, he's my boss too. She glanced at Amanda apologetically. But it's not right. Amanda deserves better, and so does this company. The room was silent. Jacob turned back to Mark, his expression unreadable. Anything to say? Mark stammered. I think there's been a misunderstanding. These are baseless accusations. They're not baseless, another voice added. This time, it was one of Amanda's engineers, standing by the glass wall. I've seen it too. And I'm not the only one. The tension in the room was palpable as more employees began to nod in agreement. Jacob folded his hands on the table, his gaze piercing. Mark, step outside. Now. Mark hesitated, looking around the room for support, but found none. He stood, his movements stiff, and left without another word. Jacob turned to Amanda. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. And thank you, Mia, for your courage. I'll need some time to review everything, but let me assure you, Swift Tech doesn't tolerate this kind of behavior. An hour later, Amanda sat alone in her office, trying to process what had just happened. Her phone buzzed. It was an email from Jacob. Amanda, I'd like to meet with you first thing Monday morning to discuss your future at Swift Tech. I admire your professionalism and resilience. Let's ensure you have the support you need moving forward. Amanda stared at the screen, a mix of relief and disbelief washing over her. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could finally breathe. Monday morning dawned crisp and clear, but Amanda's nerves felt anything but calm. She sat outside Jacob Warren's office, clutching a notebook she'd barely glanced at. The events of Friday replayed in her mind on a loop. Mark's stunned expression, Mia's brave testimony, and the unmistakable shift in the atmosphere of the room. Miss Johnson. Jacob's assistant gestured toward the open door. He's ready for you. Amanda stood, smoothing her skirt and taking a deep breath before stepping inside. Jacob Warren sat behind a minimalist desk, his sleeves rolled up and his demeanor less intimidating than Amanda had anticipated. He gestured for her to sit. First, Amanda, I want to commend your courage, Jacob began, his voice calm but firm. It's not easy to stand up in a room like that, especially against someone in Mark's position. Thank you, Amanda replied, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. I've reviewed the documents you provided, as well as the statements from your colleagues, Jacob continued. And after speaking with HR and legal this weekend, I can confirm that Mark's behavior was unacceptable and a violation of this company's core values. Amanda nodded, her expression neutral even as a wave of relief washed over her. Effective immediately, Mark Taylor is no longer employed at Swift Tech, Jacob said bluntly. Additionally, I'd like to offer you his position as Senior Manager of Project Operations. Amanda blinked, caught off guard. I don't know what to say. I'd say you've earned it, Jacob replied, a small smile breaking his usually stoic demeanor. But before you decide, let me make one thing clear. I want you to have the resources and support you need to succeed in this role. If there's anything holding you back, now is the time to discuss it. Amanda hesitated for only a moment before speaking. If I accept, I want to make sure the culture in my department changes. What happened with Mark wasn't just about me. It's about how people feel they have to stay silent out of fear. Jacob leaned back, nodding thoughtfully. I couldn't agree more. I'll give you full authority to restructure your team as you see fit. And if you encounter any roadblocks, my door is always open. Amanda took a deep breath. In that case, I accept. Jacob extended his hand, and as Amanda shook it, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The announcement of Mark's departure spread through the company like wildfire. Amanda returned to her desk to find a flood of congratulatory messages from colleagues who had silently supported her throughout the ordeal. Mia was the first to stop by in person. Looks like justice finally caught up with him, Mia said, leaning against the edge of Amanda's desk. Amanda smiled. It feels surreal. Thank you for standing up for me. I don't know if I could have done it alone. You didn't have to, Mia replied firmly. That's what a team is for. The next few weeks were a whirlwind as Amanda stepped into her new role. Her first task was to meet individually with each member of her team to discuss their experiences and concerns. During a meeting with Jake, one of the senior engineers, Amanda asked, "What's the one thing you'd like to see change in our department?" Jake hesitated before answering. Honestly, transparency. With Mark, we never knew what was happening until it was too late. It felt like he thrived on keeping us in the dark. Amanda nodded. That's going to change. I want everyone to feel like they're part of the process, not just following orders. Similar sentiments echoed throughout her meetings, and Amanda realized just how much damage Mark's leadership had done. One of Amanda's first major initiatives was implementing regular team check-ins, where everyone could voice their ideas and concerns. At the first meeting, Amanda stood at the head of the table, her posture confident but approachable. Before we dive into today's agenda, I want to say something, she began. This department has been through a lot recently, and I know trust takes time to rebuild. My goal is to make this a place where everyone feels heard and valued. If there's ever an issue, my door is open. Mia raised her hand, a playful smirk on her face. Even if we just want to complain about the coffee. The room erupted in laughter and Amanda smiled. Especially if it's about the coffee. We're all in this together. Despite the progress, Amanda couldn't entirely escape the shadows of the past. One afternoon, while preparing a presentation for the board, she received an unexpected email from Mark. Amanda, I hope you're proud of what you've done. Just know that this isn't over. Mark. Amanda stared at the message, her initial anger giving way to resolve. She forwarded the email to HR without a second thought. His chapter in this story is over, she muttered to herself, closing the email window. The weeks turned into months, and under Amanda's leadership, the department began to thrive. Projects were completed ahead of schedule, morale improved, and new talent flocked to join the team. At a quarterly company meeting, Jacob Warren singled out Amanda's team for their exceptional performance. It's not often that we see such a dramatic turnaround in such a short time, Jacob said, addressing the room. Amanda Johnson has not only exceeded expectations, but set a new standard for leadership at SwiftTech. The applause was thunderous, but Amanda's thoughts drifted to the people who had made it possible, Mia, Jake, and every team member who had believed in her vision. As the meeting ended, Amanda lingered by the coffee station, lost in thought. Mia joined her, a cup in hand. You know, Mia said with a grin, it's about time someone like you is running things around here. Amanda laughed. Let's hope I can live up to it. You already have, Mia replied. Amanda smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in months. For the first time, she wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. 6 months after Amanda had stepped into her new role, the transformation within her department was undeniable. The once fractured team was now a cohesive and thriving unit, delivering results that exceeded expectations. The air of tension and fear Mark had cultivated was gone, replaced by a spirit of collaboration and innovation. One morning, Amanda sat at her desk, reviewing the final details of a major project. Her office was filled with personal touches now. Family photos, a potted plant from Mia, and a small plaque her team had gifted her that read, "Leadership is earned, not demanded." Her phone buzzed. It was an email from Jacob Warren. Amanda, the board has been reviewing your department's performance, and I'm thrilled to inform you that your team will be recognized at the annual company gala next month. Your leadership has set a standard we hope to replicate across SwiftTech. Amanda leaned back in her chair, a mixture of pride and disbelief settling in. This wasn't just a personal victory. It was a testament to what the team had built together. That afternoon, Mia knocked on her door, holding 2 cups of coffee. I thought you might need a break, Mia said, placing one on Amanda's desk. Amanda grinned. You always know when I'm about to lose it. It's a gift, Mia replied with a wink. So, rumor has it the gala is going to be a big deal this year. Are you ready for the spotlight? Amanda laughed, though her cheeks reddened slightly. I'm not sure I'll ever be ready for that, but if it helps bring attention to the team, I'll endure it. Mia's expression softened. You're more than ready, Amanda. And I think you know that. The night of the gala arrived with a flurry of excitement. Amanda stood in front of the mirror in her modest apartment, adjusting the hem of her dress. For all the progress she'd made, moments like this still felt surreal. Her phone buzzed with a message from Jake. "We're saving you a seat. Don't let the fancy people scare you off." Amanda smiled, her nerves easing slightly. When she arrived at the event, the room buzzed with energy. Executives, team leaders, and employees from across the company mingled under the glow of chandeliers. Jacob Warren took the stage, his presence commanding as he addressed the crowd. "Tonight, we celebrate the exceptional work of our people," he began. "And one team, in particular, has set a remarkable example of resilience, innovation, and collaboration." Amanda's heart raced as Jacob continued, his gaze sweeping the room. "The project operations team, under Amanda Johnson's leadership, has redefined what it means to lead with integrity. Amanda, please join me on stage." The applause was thunderous as Amanda made her way to the podium. She felt every eye on her, but instead of fear, she felt pride. "Thank you," Amanda began, her voice steady. "This recognition isn't just about me. It's about every person who worked tirelessly to make our success possible. Leadership is about trust, and I'm fortunate to have earned the trust of an incredible team." The applause swelled again, and as Amanda stepped down, she caught Jacob's approving nod. Months turned into a year, and Amanda's influence within Swift Tech continued to grow. She became a mentor to rising leaders, sharing her experiences and guiding them through challenges. One day, while speaking at a leadership seminar hosted by the company, Amanda shared a piece of advice that had become her mantra. "Your worth isn't defined by someone else's opinion. The key to thriving, whether in work or life, is to know your value and never let anyone take that away." The room erupted in applause, but Amanda's focus was on the faces of the attendees, each one a reminder of why she'd fought so hard to stay true to herself. As Amanda left the seminar, Mia caught up with her. "So, what's next for the great Amanda Johnson?" Mia teased. Amanda laughed. "Let's just say I'm not done yet." Mia grinned. "Good, because we need more people like you." Amanda glanced around the bustling office, her heart full. She had turned what once felt like a nightmare into an opportunity to grow, inspire, and lead. This wasn't just her story. It was the beginning of a legacy.